Hey everyone, welcome to Garage Talk. As always, I'm Conrad. Let's go.
I'm Ted. It's time to rock and roll.
Teddy, today in the garage, by way of Zoom, we have classic rock media personality icon that has been heard from coast to coast, but more importantly, right here in her home state of Indiana, Laura Steele.
Yes.
We got some applause for you. Yeah. How we doing, Laura?
We're doing okay now. I'm seeing, is my head cut off or not on your end?
Not on my end.
Yeah, all I see are my lips moving, which is a common thing for me. My
Well,
lips are always
yeah,
moving.
you're this jockey. You're on TV. Your lips got to be moving.
You guys, I feel like I've just talked my whole life and I just have not shut up. I think when retirement finally comes, I'll be like, whew, I don't have to talk anymore. Really? I'm sure a few other people will be relieved by that.
Oh no, we love listening to you.
You have such an amazing radio voice. I feel like do they go around places and are they like, hey, you sound amazing, you should be on the radio?
When people don't know who I am and I'm out of town or in a city that I've not been on the air in, it's always very interesting to hear someone say, gosh, you've got such a great voice. And I'm like, well, it's something I've used for three decades, in my career.
Yeah.
So I get compliments on it. And it's interesting when I tell people that and they go, really? So I think it definitely, once you're in it and your voice is kind of seasoned to talk, people do kind of recognize that kind of delivery, if you will, of a voice that's been a voice for a while.
You have a natural way of enunciating words. I get tongue-tied. So you're very blessed.
You guys, I get tongue-tied too. You must know. Oh yeah. I get tongue-tied quite often. So it happens to the best of us. So don't you worry about it. I love your setup, your
Oh,
getup.
thanks. Teddy, him and his wife are very gracious with letting us set up here. I have children at home, so my garage looks like a toy
Dad garage.
emporium. Yeah. So
I have a 16-year-old upstairs. So I told her, I said, then I have two dogs that are trying desperately to get into the room that I'm in now, which is my
what kind of dogs do you have?
accolade wall back there. I like to do my zooms in here. I have two little fluffy white lappy yappy dogs that
Okay.
the love of my life, Pearl and Oliver.
We're dog lovers here. I got a Belgian Malinois. Ted's got
It's mixed.
It's mixed.
She's the sweetest dog ever.
Good dog.
Tell us about the life of Laura Steele coming out of Pike High School.
Red Devils represent. Just love Pike High School. They've been really good to me. In fact, they were good to me when I was a teenager. I had been kind of around a couple of different schools. I really hadn't found my spot. We had moved from the north side of Indianapolis to the west side, and I'd been to North Central, I'd been to Park Tudor, and finally transferred into Pike. And I just struggled up until Pike. And once I got to Pike, I don't know what happened, but I just really came out of my shell and ended up homecoming queen and loved that.
Wow,
really?
An honor.
I believe that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I got the wave down. There's the homecoming queen wave. And so I've met a lot of amazing friends at Pike and started really my kind of being really more social. I was always social. I love people. It started back then, me really loving being around people. And I just, ended up in college and studied fashion in Chicago and thought that's what I wanted to do. It was in the 80s after I graduated Pike High School. And I thought, okay, I'm going to study fashion. And the 80s were big with MTV and music videos. And I thought, well, I want to be like a costume designer for music videos. So I knew that music was always my love. And so I had this in my mind that I wanted to work somehow with music videos and MTV because I was constantly watching MTV. I was constantly listening to music. And I was the only one who had a car in college. And so we would all pile in my car at Columbia, I was actually at the fashion school at that time. And we'd all pile in my car and go down to Rush Street. And I'd say, oh, you have to hear this song from Billy Idol, or you have to hear this song, Eyes Without a Face, or Madonna, whatever. Back then, yes, I was into Madonna, crazy, but I'm a rocker. And my friend goes, you should really just be a disc jockey because all you do is tell us what songs to listen to. So that's where the light bulb went off. And I went, okay, I called my dad and I said, we got to find a school where I can learn about radio and be a DJ. And that's what happened. So that's really where the life started, early on, and just being a social butterfly toward the tail end of high school, and in college being the one that would always have the friends in the car and turning up the music real loud. Music's always been a big part of my life. And here we are, some 30 years
Yeah,
later.
I mean, you graduated from Columbia 1990.
Yeah, I was on the 6-year program. Wait,
Well,
5. No,
you know
6.
what? I'm a 90s kid. I feel like the 90s aren't that long ago, but relative, it's like the 70s to 90s people.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, let's talk about your parents.
Oh,
How
so
encouraging were they? Because if I told my grandmother, "Hey, well, I'm gonna have a podcast," she would have said in her Mexican accent, "Nobody wants to hear you talk but you." She was a truthful woman, but surprisingly, people do like enjoy listening to me and TED Talk. So,
you do a great job. I see this already. A couple of minutes in, you're doing a great job. I
oh,
love it.
thank you. So, how encouraging were they?
So let's go back to just way early on in my love for music. My dad's father owned and ran a restaurant in Indianapolis called the Rum Barrel. And as a little girl, I would go sit in the cashier area, when people would come and bring their bills to pay for their dinner at the Rum Barrel, which is near Glendale. It was near
Mhm.
Glendale Mall. And I would hang out in the cashier area and kind of assist there. I'm thinking 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old. But I also would go into the bar, and they had a jukebox in the bar. So I would go play, and my dad or my grandfather would give me money to play on the jukebox. And then the record company guys or the jukebox guys would come in, and they would get the records out and put the new ones in, because it would be what's ever hot and happened, whatever song was, hip at the time. So I would take all the records that would come out and go home and put them on. We had a jukebox at home. I really, really wanted a record player. And I'll never forget, I was in school one day, got out of school, got off the school bus, and our neighbor, Mrs. Bluestein, was having a garage sale. And I went to the garage sale, and she had a record player. And I saw this record player in my eyes. I wanted my own record. We had a jukebox that all the kids had to share, but I wanted my own record player for those 45 records. So I said to Mrs. Bluestein, I said, I don't have the money, but my dad, when he gets off work, he'll come back and he'll buy the record player for me. And my dad got off work, and I said, Dad, Mrs. Bluestein's having a garage sale. There's a record player. I really want to get it. He takes me back over to her house. She sold it.
Oh,
She sold it to someone else. I had tears streaming down my face. I was devastated. So what did my dad do? He took me to Service Merchandise and
Yep.
bought me a brand new
wow.
record player, because I was so crushed that that she had sold it. So he tried to make up for her, obviously not very loyal to her word, and bought me a record player. And so I remember some of my first records were like Led Zeppelin, In Through the Outdoor. I'm trying to think of my first real albums, that I purchased. That was one of my first. But those 45 records that I had gotten, we had the little insert, for the
The
45
little
records.
yellow insert.
Yeah, and those are so cool. And yeah, so that's really where my parents kind of, connected with me and my love for music. Now, my mom would always do yoga in the basement, and she'd be down in the basement. I'd get off the school bus, and she'd be in the basement going, doing her meditation and yoga to Carole King's Tapestry. Okay. So, which is a legendary album. And that was also something that just stood out to me, that my parents had such a love for music that it just kind of was ingrained in me. So yeah, that record player mishap turned out for the better in the end, I'll say.
Siblings?
What's that?
You have siblings?
I do. I have a sibling up in heaven, Brad, who also I shared the jukebox with. He passed away a handful of years ago, unfortunately, and a sister who's older, and then I have a younger brother who's half my age. So my dad had another son later in life, and so I have a brother Brandon and a sister Cynthia. Wait, that's why are you patting him on the back?
Because I'm 47 and I just had a kid a year
Oh,
ago.
you told me that. Yeah, I knew
Right,
that.
yeah.
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 So, yeah, my little brother Brad was this big inspiration for me too, because we would love listening to music together, and my sister Cynthia and my brother Brad. I was in high school at Pike, and this is really a sad story, but heartbreaking because I've just kind of really not gotten over it. But we've all been through that kind of stuff in life. But he was on a scooter with a buddy of his, and a man ran a stop sign and hit my brother and his
No.
on a scooter. And my brother lived, but was very severely injured, really through his life. Had ruptured spleen, lost a kidney, crushed leg. I mean, he took the brunt of the car. So he passed away in his 40s, but he always dealt with pain and just really had a tough go. He has a daughter. Her name's Brandy. So, she kind of lives on. He lives on through her. She's just a wonderful girl. Going to a dental assistant school now. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of remember your childhood, you remember those moments, you remember music. He used to love Paul McCartney. So whenever I hear Live and Let Die, I always think of my brother, and Elton John always makes
Yep.
me think of my little brother. So you just think about family when you think about music. You think about life, you think about those challenges in your life. Still to this day, I drive past where he was hit, and I was the one in the family that went to the scene of the accident because a friend came and knocked on the door and said, "Your brother's been hit by a car. I need to take you to where he is because it's not good." So every time I go past, I'll have music on and I'll kind of look over, and he didn't pass away then. Again, he lived for many years, but with a lot of just mishaps because that man was distracted while he was driving, and that was before phones. This elderly
Oh,
man blew through a stop sign, and the boys had the right of way, and they just got smacked. So the other young man was injured, but bad, not as bad as my brother. So that was tough on the family. So that was pretty heavy. But those are the things that we go through in life that kind of shape us and make us and help us become stronger, right?
true.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely. Absolutely. And you are literally walking, talking proof of that.
Uh-huh.
So when did you say, you know what? I'm going to be a media personality.
Well, I think that point in the car when my friend said
Mm.
you should really be a DJ, I kind of a light bulb went off, but I don't know if I really realized it until I got on the air at the college radio
Mhm.
station. And I had the headphones on, and I think like 10 different things were on the air at once, and I was like sweating bullets because I had made a mistake and hit the wrong button, and I fired all these different things off at the wrong time. And I thought, okay, and I got through it, and the engineer came in, he goes, "You're fine." And I got through it, and every day I just kept getting better and kept getting better on the college station. Then I interned at a station in Chicago, a classic rock station, and kind of watched those who were great at it, and I thought, I can do this, and I want to do this. And it just was really an amazing kind of feeling to go, okay, I love music, I love people, I love just being on and being around people and talking, and it just makes sense. So I just knew after I kind of had some time on the air at the college station and then as an intern. And then my first job was at WZPL in Indianapolis. And I knew that I was a rock and roller. I was not a top 40 girl, but the boss that hired me there, Don London, who named me Laura Steele, he gave me my name's Laura, but my real last name isn't Steele. And he said, Steele's just got a lot of, my dad didn't like that I wasn't using our legal name. He goes, "What's wrong?"
Yeah. It's a
But
cool name.
come on, what's
Yeah.
that?
It's a cool name.
It works. There are a
Yeah.
lot of skills in radio. So yeah, my first boss said, "I'm gonna name you Laura Steele." And I thought, I'm not gonna last long here because I want to be playing Led Zeppelin and I want to be playing the Beatles. This was in 1990, 91. I'm like, I was playing Mariah Carey and I was like, oh, was not Backstreet Boys, I was
Oh
like,
no,
no,
no.
no, 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 this is so not me. I mean, Madonna was really the only one that I grew up with, like in the 80s, that I thought that was palatable to me, or a few others. That's not true. I really like funk and I love disco. I don't get the hate on disco. I think Saturday Night Fever is a spectacular album, wonderful
Uh-huh.
soundtrack, excellent. I think the Bee Gees were brilliant. So there's
How
something
deep
I
is
can,
your love?
but how deep is your love? More than a woman, more than a
Yeah. I mean,
woman.
I
So
I had that 8 track.
Yes, you probably did. I could see that. But I wasn't against disco like a lot of people were.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
Throw me out some of your top classic rock bands.
Okay, first Led Zeppelin. There's
Okay.
just no arguing that. And close behind, just because I respect and really, well, I love them. I love their music. They're brilliant. The Beatles, you can't go wrong there. I'm a prog rock fan, so I love Genesis. I
Mhm.
love Phil Collins' solo albums, not the sappy stuff from the movies and whatever. I
Yep.
like that.
Yep. Yep.
There are a lot of great Phil Collins solo albums, but
Mhm.
Genesis and Yes, I love Yes. I loved the Cars growing up. The
Mhm.
Cars were one of my favorite bands growing up. And Bad Company was a great band growing up. I mean, I can't even believe that Bad Company is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's
It's just
crazy, isn't it?
crazy to me, just mind-boggling.
It is.
I'm not like super like, even though you would think Led Zeppelin's super heavy, but I'm not like into like heavy metal per se, but Led Zeppelin's probably the top of the top of the pack.
Yeah. To me, when I think of, because me and Ted sat in his kitchen one night and we were discussing, when does music become classic rock?
Mhm.
And
Oh, that's a great
because
question.
because a lot of people think Guns N' Roses is classic rock, but and I've heard it on classic rock stations,
Mhm.
but they came out in 88, 89.
They're classic rock.
They are
They're kind of at the end of classic rock because
the
I don't think
edge.
Foo Fighters are classic rock. I don't think Stone Temple Pilots are classic rock. I love them, don't get me wrong. I don't
Right.
even think
Yeah.
Nirvana's classic rock. I just don't. I think that classic rock needs to stay in its lane, especially radio stations. I think when radio stations say they're classic rock stations, now if you want to be an active rock radio station and you want to play a Led Zeppelin song into a Nirvana song, into a GNR song, into a Stone Temple Pilot song, as I mentioned before. Fine, maybe Bush, the band Bush, if you're
Mhm.
an active rock station. But if you're a pure classic rocker, you just stay in your lane. You play. If I were a classic rock programmer, like picking all the music and I could develop my own station, it would be a mix of like the Led Zeppelins, the Genesis, the prog rockers, the GNR, maybe some Ozzy, maybe some Black Sabbath. But do you know what I'm saying? Don't you agree with me
Yeah.
that classic rock is just like sometimes a little diluted with newer, I say newer stuff, even though that newer stuff is 30-ish years old. But I think 70s, maybe tail end of 60s, maybe dipping a little bit, maybe a bit into the 80s, with Billy Idol. Is Billy Idol
Right.
classic rock? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, and that's, let me throw this out here real quick because I did some research and there were some albums turning 50 in
Oh gosh.
2024.
Okay. Make us feel old, right?
Badfinger.
Oh, no matter what. Badfinger was a baby Beatles.
Yep. Todd
That was
Rundgren.
that was a Paul McCartney project.
Yep.
They were on the Apple label.
Hmm.
Rare Bands that was on that label. Yep.
That's crazy. That's the
What a
Todd
great band.
Rundgren.
Oh
He,
yeah.
now, Boogie Brothers, are they considered classic rock?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I just interviewed one of the guys from the Doobies the other day. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then
Patrick Simmons was great.
you've got Deep Purple, you've got Kiss, Steely Dan. And
Absolutely.
then
Absolutely. But
one of my favorites, Bob Seger.
oh, one of my favorites too. It's funny. It's
Right.
funny when you ask one of my favorites. He's definitely a favorite too.
Mhm.
I love Bob Seger. I love a lot
Well,
of his music. Like a Rock. Come on.
Mm.
and you've been there. I mean, Bob Seger and Bruce Springsteen would play 3 hour shows.
Bruce
That
Springsteen's
doesn't
still
happen
playing
anymore.
3-hour shows tonight
Oh
in
my
Columbus as we tape
man.
the show. He's playing
That's
tonight
getting
in
your
Columbus.
money's worth.
Yeah, they know that. They don't come on for, an hour and leave. They've got, well, look at their catalogs. Look how many songs they've
Mm.
got.
Right.
You've got to
Right.
stay out there and do all the songs that everybody loves so much.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So in my head, I was thinking, because at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of females in radio DJing.
Right.
So in a male dominated field, how did you hold your own? Or was that even a thought in your head?
I don't even think that was really a thought in my head, though I did really take to like studying and watching those women who were in classic rock radio as
Mhm.
Chicago. There was a gal named Debbie Alexander who was on WCKG, which is where I interned. She had a great delivery, super clean delivery, not real raspy and rock and roll, but she just was a really great classic rock jock. And I would watch her as I was in college because I interned there and I would just be like, my jaw would drop. I'm like, I want to be a Debbie Alexander. There's also Patty Hayes in Chicago. So a lot of the women who I really not modeled myself after, but who I watched and who I was impressed by were female radio personalities in Chicago. So Patty Hayes would be one, Debbie Alexander would be another, and then the woman I'm named after was Allison Steele. So my boss was from the East Coast. So that first boss, go back in our story to WZPL, the one who named me Laura Steele and said your real name's not going to work. He said I loved listening to Allison Steele. At a station in New York City. They called her the Night Bird. She was one of the first real like nighttime female disc jockeys who was playing Led Zeppelin, who was playing Bad Company, who was playing all these bands that were coming out at the time with new music. She since had passed away from lung cancer. In fact, she was pretty young when she passed away. But I was named after Allison Steele, the Night Bird. And if you Google her, you'll find out more about Allison Steele. And that's kind of someone that I also kind of researched and learned a lot about. And I thought that was pretty neat that my name came from her and my boss's love for her. Don London was that first boss at ZPL. I got to give him
I
a shout
remember.
out. Yeah, that first boss is always the one that, he taught me a lot. I'll never forget just a story about Don. That's a great story there where he sat across from me and said, yes, Steele's what I want you to have as your last name. That was a pretty exciting moment until I went home and told my dad, and he goes, what's wrong with you? Anyway, we'll keep my name top secret, my real name.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other thing that Don London taught me was that I remember I was out at some teenage dance club and I got hired. I got hired, probably got paid $50 for the night. And back in those days, that was pretty good. And so I was working. It was called a gig. And I remember there was no air. It was stifling. It was so hot in this dance club, ridiculously hot. So I go into the bathroom and I'm dripping with sweat. And I'm like talking to the promotions girl. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. They don't have air on out there. And I'm like complaining and I'm not a complainer. I'm a pretty easy going, but it's not that I hadn't worked. It's just that I'd never really been in that environment before where I was like, why don't they flip the air conditioning on? And I guess either the owner or somebody overheard it and they said, well, Laura Steele was complaining that it was too hot. And my boss said, look, you gotta watch what you say, be professional, you're being paid, you're there. And I learned at that moment, you know what? He's right. I should not have done that. I should have kept it to myself. I should have worked until 10 o'clock, whenever my quitting time was, and gone home and taken a shower, or, wipe myself off quietly, but with the sweat beads rolling out. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this, I don't know why I was complaining other than it was very warm and seemed like it was just not right that they didn't have the air on. But then, like I said, the owner either overheard it and so my boss said, don't, just, keep it cool when you're in situations like that. And so I learned that from him. So I try to be very professional. I met you guys at one of my most favorite appearances for the Colts game, right? At the,
Yes.
Yep.
yeah, at Bullseye Event Group where I do the emceeing for the pregame for the Colts pregame. And now you just do and really I love what I do. And I think I was having fun that night. Don't get me wrong. I was just
Yeah.
like boiling. Everybody was. They're just being
We had
insolent.
just walked in that
Yeah.
tailgate party,
Yeah.
and Ted goes, "That's Laura Steele," and I was like, "Okay,
Who?
let's be cool, be cool, man."
Who's Laura Steele?
No,
I know
we both fanboyed out. I was like, "Be cool, be cool," and Ted's like, "I'm gonna go introduce myself." I was like, "I said, be cool."
No, you were cool. I loved meeting you guys and I
Yeah.
loved being on with you. And I know we talked about you coming to the station, but I got to tell you, I love the girl. I love where you're talking to me from. I like this. I
Oh,
still
yeah.
can't see my self. I just see my lips moving. But like I said, what you do, that's all I ever see is blah, 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 blah.
No, you look great.
Thank you.
This will be an amazing podcast on YouTube.
And actually, it's going to air on Mother's. It's going to air on Mother's Day weekend. So we have to
Yes.
say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers,
Happy
including
Mother's
you.
Day. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I love being a mom. It's an interesting journey, isn't it, guys, to be a parent?
Oh yeah.
Holy smokes, it's just a whole different ball game. But my mom was the greatest. I lost her 3 years ago from breast cancer, and the only thing I can think is that she is reunited with my brother, who we spoke about earlier, and that
Right.
the anguish and pain that she went through trying to keep him well after he was injured. You know, they're at peace now from what unfortunately was brought upon them. But I miss her something terrible. I think I was telling Conrad, we were talking about how I've just dealt with
Yeah.
not being the same since my mom passed away. It's really hard. It's been really, really hard since I lost my mom. She was my rock. I mean, I remember my first on-air shift at ZPL was in the middle of the night as Laura Steele. And so I thought my mom was so excited. I was back from Chicago. I actually still had my apartment in Chicago from college, but I was living with mom while I kind of was getting this new job underway. And I was only at ZPL for a year before I ended up in Cincinnati, which I've been on the air there for 30 years. We'll get to that. But I got home at like 6 in the morning, and she had banners all over her house. Great
Wow.
show. You were smooth as steel. Hold on a second. I think I've got it. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. I keep them back here. This is my wall back here. My wall of, I don't know if you can see the wall of accolades.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go, guys. Check this out. This is what was on my mom's front door, like banner. It says, "Wow, you were smooth as steel. Had
You
fun."
still
But
have that?
I
That's
still have what
amazing.
my mom wrote. Hold on, that's not it. It's kind of, it got over the years, it got a little disheveled, as you
Yeah.
well. Oh boy, yes, and how it's like falling apart here. Laura Steele, the newest brightest star, ZPL. Can you see
That's
that?
awesome. That's
That's
awesome. Yes.
awesome.
Art,
Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
can
have to
see
put it
it.
together. You were fantastic.
That's
So,
great.
my mom was just such a great supporter of mine up until 3 years ago. When she was, I could call her and just, she was just the best. I mean, I could call her with anything, and she was just the greatest. And I want that for my daughter. Kids now aren't really the same way. They kind of resort to their staring at their phones, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Daughter,
It's
my
a,
daughter will occasionally come into my room and we'll talk, and but my mom was just, yeah, I mean, to have that, it was like there were this wasn't it. There were like balloons all over the house and these notes from her. It was awesome. Her name was Jan, and Jan was just the loveliest mom, just a great, great mother.
Well,
My
sounds like a thoughtful woman.
that's what's so impressive. I mean, your parents raise you, but like you said, with your brother, when you see
inspiration.
your parents turn into a caregiver,
Yeah, it was
that's
tough.
that's
And then
amazing parents.
yeah, yeah. When you would then we, then we turn into caregivers for our parents, and your parents
Yes.
are supposed to be caregivers for the kids, and the kids aren't supposed to go before the parents. They say
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yep.
when that happens, it's just really devastating to everybody. That's been a tough part. But my brother was
Yeah.
always really proud of me. My brother would always say, because I'm on TV as well, and when I started
Uh-huh.
Channel 8, he would go, What are you on, Channel 59, Channel 13, Channel 6, Channel joke with me. I mean, he would be, and then he would say, tweet me, Snapchat me, Facebook me. Like, he was just a character. He was a character. So he did all right. I mean, there were years where he was okay, but that pain, if you can imagine being injured like that,
Yeah.
he's a perfect person when we talk about pain management and those who really deserve to kind of be treated, differently and not looked down upon if they've been injured or they're dealing with
Right.
mental anguish or physical anguish, that you can't look beyond. You have to see what's going on with them. And my mom was very, very good to him and tried to, be there for him until till the end. It was not an easy thing to deal with. But again, they're together now. So if we can believe in
So who in your life, and you'll probably revert back to your parents, but who in your life um was a huge influence or a big mentor in your career?
Okay, back to Chicago. Well, my parents for sure, yes, we covered that, and they were definitely. My dad is a successful attorney. He's a successful attorney. My brother is now an attorney. My other little brother, who's half my age, is an attorney. So, I come from a family of lawyers on that.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought about being a lawyer for about a minute. I'm like, do I have to go to more school? I've already extended this college career. I don't want to keep extending that one. But back to when I was in college, there was an on-air personality. His name was Mitch Michaels, and he worked with Patty Hayes and Debbie Alexander, the other two that I mentioned from CKG, which was a great classic rock station, kind of when classic rock was kind of being called classic rock in the beginnings. Mitch Michaels was just a wonderful leader. I watched him. He was very together. He was very um, like we would answer his phones for the request lines, and he'd say, do not let that phone ring more than once. Those people have taken the time to call the radio station. They want to request during the classic rock diner, which is what it was called. And he says, don't let that phone ring more than once. And so we'd sit there and say, 105.9 WCKG, it's Mitch Michaels, Classic Rock Diner. It's Laura, intern Laura. What would you like to hear today? And then I would pipe it through or tell Mitch, what song the person wanted to hear, and then he would record them, put them on the air, but I would set that up. So I was watching him do all of these amazing things in the third largest market in America, Chicago. That's the third largest, radio market in America. And I was just fascinated how it was like he was a well-oiled machine. And I really learned a lot. I learned a lot from Columbia, my college. I went to Columbia College in Chicago. That was a great radio program. I skipped a town for a little bit and went to ASU, and it was the Walter Cronkite School of Broadcasting. And it's run well now, but it was not run well back then when I went, and it was not, in my opinion, wasn't as good as Columbia. So I ended up back at Columbia and graduated from there and worked at CKG. So I would say my teachers, Terry Hemmert, who's a radio personality at a station in Chicago. She's been there forever, XRT. She was my history of rock and roll teacher. Yes, there was a class at
Oh
my school
man,
called History of Rock and Roll.
That
So
was a real class.
yes, yeah,
wow! I'd like to
yeah,
take
History
that
of Rock
class.
and
No
Roll.
kidding.
Taught by Terry Hemmert, and she was also a radio personality. So I would listen and watch her. So there were a lot of mentors. The city of Chicago was really a city that I, was kind of bright-eyed and in wonder of as far as radio. It was a big radio market. Ended up back on the air there for a bit, a skinny minute, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. It was kind of more difficult than I thought it would be. So then I ended up back home and then also in Cincinnati. So I would say that Mitch Michaels is probably, as far as being on the air, a huge mentor. And then just my teachers and my educators along the way. Yeah. And my parents.
Now, do you have a most memorable interview? I'm sure you have many, but what comes to your mind real quick?
Okay, real quick. I was petrified. I was backstage at Riverbend Music Center in Cincinnati, and it was
Cincinnati.
Ted Nugent. Yeah, Ted Nugent was getting ready to take the stage, and we were live on the air with him. And he put his hands around my neck and he goes, Laura Steele, I got you in a stranglehold. You know, his song Stranglehold.
Yeah, his
And I'm
song,
not
his
letting
song.
go. And I went, help, somebody help. No, he's something. That was pretty memorable to have. That's so Ted Nugent. That's so Ted Nugent
Yep,
to do
yep,
that,
that's
right? Did you see him do that? Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, Ted Nugent was pretty crazy. Jimmy Buffett was an interesting interview. He didn't seem real. He wasn't the type to really want to be interviewed, but I was doing
right.
it for TV because I also worked in TV in Cincinnati. But he was interesting. He was just kind of really just Jimmy Buffett. He was kind of
Uh-huh.
himself, wasn't? Yeah. It's not that I interviewed someone that was a meeting that I had, but an encounter, or it was more of a meeting and encounter, was with Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters. And I met him at Sundance Film Festival in a stairwell. We were both going into his movie premiere of Sound City Studios.
Uh-huh.
And he was wonderful. And I wish I had a microphone and I wish I had a minute to interview, but it was just a conversation. So that stands out too. So probably that crazy Ted Nugent moment. I always like interviewing Sammy Hagar, but I'm still interviewing rockers to this day, which is fun. Just interviewed George Thorogood about Carb Day. He's playing Carb Day at the Speedway. Interviewed Patrick Simmons of Doobie Brothers.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's kind of I love doing that. I love chatting with the rockers about their careers and what they have done through the years to bring great music to those who love their songs.
Right. Now, is there a dream interview that you haven't had yet?
Dream interview that I'd love to talk to Robert Plant, of course.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to chat with Robert Plant. I mean, but he's just also off the grid too.
Yep.
getting an interview with him. I met him once, and the record company guy promised my friend and I that he would send the picture. So when you go and you do meet and greets, you meet the rockers, and then they're supposed to, the record guys take the pictures and they go, we'll send it to you. And I had my camera, I had a Canon camera. This was like before we had our, phones to take
Right.
camera
Right.
pictures. So I had an actual camera, and I never got the photo, but I swear I met Robert Plant. I swear I met Robert Plant. It happened. It happened. I swear, at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas, in the hallway there. So probably Robert Plant. I'd love to talk to him. Paul McCartney would be just such a delight to chat with.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Yep.
know I'm thinking real big, but I've never interviewed a Beatle. Who else? I would say that's probably it as far as music. Yeah, as far as
Okay.
music goes. Yeah.
How much, like, you've been doing this, you've been at this for a while.
Yeah.
How much has technology affected radio?
Yikes. Well, in a good way for me because I'm able to maintain my Cincinnati on air
Mhm.
presence because I'm based in Indiana. And so you really can do a show anywhere. And you guys know this with what you're doing, you can do anything anywhere now. You got people
Yeah.
doing podcasts and shows everywhere. Um, it's whittled down the talent. Unfortunately, a lot of friends in the industry have been fired. A lot of really good, talented people have been let go, and that's depressing. When I worked for iHeart, I was with iHeartRadio or Clear Channel for 15 years, and they utilized me all over the country. And it was a bit of a challenge for me because I was based in Indiana, but I was doing shows in Dallas, Nashville, San Jose, all of these different cities, and it wasn't syndicated. It was customized. So I had to follow the Cowboys. I had to follow the Titans. I had to know what was going on with the San Francisco Giants.
Oh
It was,
man.
but the technology was so that you would come it's called Heads and Tails. You would get to the tail end of a Led Zeppelin song, the beginning of uh, a Billy Joel song, and you would do little voice tracks. And I would do them over and over and over throughout the day. I lost my voice.
Oh.
I literally one day woke up, had nodules from here to here. I had double vocal cord surgery. Haven't had a problem since I had that surgery. So technology has really kind of made people who are in it work a lot harder and do a lot more. And a lot of the great people are on the outside, unfortunately, trying to look in. So technology has changed in a negative way, but also for me, I feel like in a good way. But I don't like to say that based on a lot of my friends who are not working anymore. So just because we have, you know, ways to do shows anywhere, anytime, any given time, any given place that can be shot off to different cities,
Yeah.
you don't need as many people. And that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks. I mean, I miss the days of a lot of people in the industry. The industry's changed a lot, but I'm
Well, I know that,
still in it.
yeah, social media, I mean, we see some DJs, Howard Stern's all over TikTok and
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. And I think it's really interesting to see if they will evolve with it. WJJK has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, we've also
I've,
got Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, I love that
yeah,
station.
I've,
That's such a
I'm a
fun station to be on.
subscriber.
Oh, thank you. I just signed up for TikTok yesterday, you guys. Literally, after
Hey, listen, hey, if we ever get a chance to get together, we have to do a TikTok together. We're
hold
on
on.
there.
Let me find you real quick. How do I find y'all? Hold on, let me go to my TikTok.
Garage Talk 46933. We went with the Gas City zip
Okay.
code.
Okay. You send that to me later because now I can't even find it on my phone because it's that new. I don't know. Like
I sure
Instagram,
will.
I could point to Instagram blind on my phone. So that's
Yeah.
the one I'm on. I'm probably on X the most though. I'm a Twitter girl. The X
Yes.
here.
Yep.
And Facebook, I guess. I've kind of dropped a little bit off of that. It's hard to maintain. That's also technology in that aspect. You
Mhm.
asked how it's changed the business. That's a whole different thing. Now we blog on our websites and we have to
Yeah.
post on our Facebook page. And it's like, oh, when you think you're done, you're not done. You're always
Right.
on.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
always on.
When
It's
we started this podcast, we didn't realize how much work we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
isn't it? You're like
X. Like, we gotta post. We gotta do all kinds of things.
That's to stay, that's to stay in it, but you also gotta stay
Relevant.
with the family. How old's the little one? You said you're a dad all over again. How old's the little one?
One.
One,
One.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's hard. When you're in media and when you do what you guys do and you have your podcast and you've got to promote it. And when I'm in media and I'm working at Channel 13, I usually promote when I do segments with them or if I'm doing something in the month of May. And it seems like it's never ending. It's like, oh my goodness, me. It's forever. You're doing things, it seems like just constantly. It's just forever in the back of your mind that I got to do this. I got to do that. I've got to email this person. I got to do this. I got to tweet. I got to Instagram, now TikTok. I don't even know if I'm going to wrap my arms around that tightly. I haven't. I got caught up in watching the reels or whatever it is on TikTok, and I'm like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, this time suck. It's sucking my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It turns us into, so like I have, young children. I notice their attention spans are shrinking because they need something else to keep their attention.
Keep their
Yeah.
minds, their wheels turning. Yep, keep their wheels turning. Wow, it's
Right.
crazy.
Now, I know you're big on charities. Throw out some charities that you are really passionate about.
I love Special Olympics Indiana. Just did the polar plunge with them. I'm big on the Caroline Sims Endowment, which is through Riley Hospital. Caroline Sims was a young girl who passed away of a tumor that they thought that they could, they could correct it and that she would be okay, and she wasn't. She was a family friend. Her parents were family friends. So the Caroline Sims Endowment is one that definitely, have a lot of. I'd like to do a lot for them. They're just, usually when people ask, I like to show up at these things, I've got
Mhm.
to, I like to be there for these events around Indianapolis. Mom passed away of cancer, so I haven't done a lot with the cancer wellness community, I think it's called. I've done some stuff with them before. They have the cancer support community. They have comedians.
Mhm.
That's the one that has the comedians come in every year. I
Yep.
haven't done that in a while. The pandemic kind of squashed a little bit of me being, out there so much, and I'm kind of getting back into it again. But I would say Riley Hospital, Caroline Sims Endowment, and Special Olympics Indiana. That's who I've been spending a lot of time doing stuff for. Oh, and Rev and the IU Health Foundation. Rev is an event that's happening in May. It happens in the month of May, and it's at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it helps benefit the trauma side of things for IU Health and Methodist, and helps raise funds for the In-Care Center at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So IU Health Foundation is it's close to my heart as well.
Well, that's very commendable. I mean, Conrad and I look at people like you that do stuff like that. You guys are heroes. I mean,
Oh,
That's cool.
that's all there is to it.
if you got a voice, come on,
Yes,
you use
exactly.
it. If you've got a
Yeah.
voice, if you've got a presence, get out there, use it. Sometimes the people who are on the board or the committee or the president of these foundations or whatever, they're not, maybe they don't want to get up on the mic, and then, we're used to that. So why not utilize us for that? And you
Right.
never charge a penny. There's always been kind of a thing where, do you charge for that? I'm like, no. I've had a few, like the Miracle Ride used to pay, and I don't know if I don't know, the Miracle Ride, the motorcycle ride around in Indianapolis and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for
Mhm.
Riley. But it seems very odd to take money for a charity event. But that's been something people say that there should be fees for that. It's one of those things where I've never really gone down that road, because you just donate your time. You donate your voice, you donate your time.
And
That's what you do when you're in the public eye, as you should.
right. And
The dog
we
that wants
did
to get-
that. We did that. We weren't expecting anything, and they threw something at us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do? What is it? Who are you guys doing for?
We were involved in a nonprofit here in Gas City. It was called Ole Miss Youth Sports, and it was mainly for the kids in the community to have programs, whether it be golf or softball, baseball. We put golf clubs in the hands of kids that probably would have never have ever thought about playing golf.
Yeah.
Things like that. Ted was a commissioner of basketball, youth basketball.
Okay.
So Yeah, Ted's that guy, you know, if you need a ride to practice or
You're gonna do it, Ted.
he'd load up the car and take him to practice, take him home. Really
Ted,
good guy.
my Pacer love goes way back, y'all. My dad was
Okay.
one of the first to buy season tickets. So
Really?
when the ABA Pacers came to,
I was getting ready to say it had to be the ABA days.
I used to go see the Pacers and then Darnell Hellman, George McGinnis.
Yep.
They lived in my neighborhood growing up. So
Really?
a Pacer player, yes, I lived across the
Wow.
street from Darnell Hellman. He had the best Halloween candy. Yes,
And he-
true.
Were they full
Yes.
size candy bars?
Full size Darnell Hellman, and then George McGinnis, Mel Daniels. Mel
Mel
Daniels,
Daniels.
George McGinnis, Jerry Harkness also lived in
Don
our
Boozy.
all one street. And my dad, the home that we lived in before we moved to the west side, was in a neighborhood with a lot of Pacer players. One moved in and then they all moved in. It was great. And we used to knock on the door on Halloween, or we used to see them out in the yard and we're like, those guys are so tall. And so my dad was one of the first with his buddies to buy season tickets for the ABA Pacers. So we have actually still managed to have those season tickets. So we've had them, do the math, since 1967.
Man.
Yeah, my dad's been now my brother and the law firm has them. But yeah, we've had those tickets for quite some time. Pearl is ready to bust through the office doors here. Pearl is
Okay.
like, can you hear Pearl? Can you hear this? Hold on, listen. Oh, she just laid down. She knows she's like trying to get in. Listen. Did you not hear that? Here, let's get Pearl. Let me go grab Pearl. Hang on. Let's get
Okay,
Pearl.
let's see Pearl.
Okay, hang on. Come on, Pearl. Come on, I want to see it, Pearl. Come on, let's go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Now you're gonna be shy now that you know you're going on the podcast. Good girl. Come on. Let's go say hi. She's listen, she picked her up and she yelps like that. Sounds like I heard her. She's just such a big baby.
Look at her.
Wow.
She's a delicate flower. She's a delicate, that's why she yelps like that. And then Oliver's here and he's just too big for me to pick up. So there's Miss Pearl. And I did
How you
not
doing,
hurt her.
Pearl?
Yeah, when I picked
Is
her
this
up, she
Pearl's
yelped.
first time on a podcast?
You know what? It's funny. The guy from the Doobie Brothers wanted to see her, so I picked her up for Patrick of the Doobie Brothers. So you guys second. So you and the Doobie brother. How's that? You're in good company.
That's awesome.
You're
We're
in
in
good
that
company,
class.
guys.
That's right.
You're in good company. But yeah, the Pacers were just, I mean, I'm a fanatic. I love them. We still go. I went to the game a couple weeks ago that where they clinched their playoff position. And I don't want to talk too much about it because it might be, past the fact. So
Yeah.
but what would you say? Always go Pacers. Always.
Well, I will share this with you.
Yes.
Me and my buddy got Aerosmith VIP tickets for our significant others.
Yay, I'll see you guys at Aerosmith then.
Yep.
Yay.
I'll be there in VIP.
I will see you. You'll be
I'll
VIP.
never, if I'm going to spend money on a concert, I'm going to spend a lot
You're going
of it.
all out. Good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
life's short. Buy the concert tickets.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Life's short.
You only live once.
True story. True
Hey,
story.
I used to be able to buy concert t-shirts for $10.
You guys, if you
I'm that old.
yeah, I do too. I got to tell you, I've got so many concert shirts. I've got like a whole rack. How's Pearl look? She look good? I can't really see because all I see
Yeah,
is
she does.
yeah.
this is
She looks
crazy.
pearl white.
She's got a little, she's one of those dogs that's got the tear stains. I can't, if any of your followers can tell me how to fix that.
There you go.
I don't think there's any fixing that. My dog gets them.
My daughter, by the way, my 16-year-old is on the phone upstairs. It was prom last night. Screaming out loud. I don't know what happened, but something's, it's teenage drama at one form.
Well, we're not here. I'm worried you're going to hear the neighbors mowing.
Oh, I can't look. Uh-oh. See, these two fight. Listen to her. She's ready to throw down with Oliver. She's kicking Oliver out of the room.
This is so cool.
I told you she's bad. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
She's batshit crazy. This one's
Yeah.
batshit. This one is psycho.
We were trying our best not to drop the F word.
Please.
But we have. I mean, because, we have you on, so we're not going to say fuck.
You could say
Okay.
I just said it. Can you bleep
Awesome.
me out? Can you bleep me out in post-op?
If that's what you want me to do, I'll do it.
Bleep me out so I can
I
be the
will.
lady that I am.
I'll
Lady
bleep
Luck.
you out. I'll
There
bleep
you
you out. Absolutely.
Hey, Laura, I do need to ask you something, Laura, though. You're a Cincinnati Reds fan, right?
I am.
Who's your favorite all-time Cincinnati Reds player?
So I've had favorites through the years, but I have to say, if I had to answer right now, and he's no longer with them, Joey Votto. I love
Oh,
Joey
yep, yep.
Votto. And
What
he
a great guy.
yeah, and he's in Toronto. Is he in Toronto now? Who's he with and what's he doing? I should know. But he's
I-
yeah, they let him loose and everybody, not everybody was upset. A lot of Cincinnati fans said, "Eh," but he was desperate to find a job. Did you guys follow him when he was trying to search for a job after the Reds let him go?
Yes,
Pathetic,
that's
fabulous. And
sad.
he just got on social media.
Maybe we should get him on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I love Joey Votto. If you get him on, can I come back on and just say hi?
Absolutely. You know what? I'm one of those guys who I I will go on Google and just Google random stuff. And luckily enough, your production Mike,
Program director, Mike Kilgore.
program director,
He's a great
had an
leader.
email, and I was like, what's the worst can he do?
Right.
Tell me no.
No,
So I
he's a-
wrote him he emailed me right back and said, I'll ask her.
Have you guys thought about his name? Kill a brew. No, it took me
No,
like,
no, but that's awesome because we're killing brews now.
I bet
Yeah.
you are. I see that over there. Yep, you're killing brews and dropping F-bombs
Yeah,
with
Oh,
Pearl.
some of these podcasts get amazing.
yeah, they're pretty funny.
Hey,
Before we
he'd be a great one to have on, because he runs, he's on 93.9. He runs the station that Dan Dockage is on now. Dan Dockage,
Ooh,
the sports station. And then he's also our leader. He's our program director. So Killebrew would not be a bad guest to have on. He's a great
well,
guy.
I have an email ready to go, locked and loaded, to send him to tell him thank you.
Oh, that's so
So
nice.
I might have to add to it.
And
Yep.
tell him that I
Asking-
spoke highly of him on your
Yeah.
podcast.
I absolutely will.
Yes.
But
Hey.
before we let you go,
Yes,
go ahead,
sir.
Ted.
but you brought up Dan Dockage. Man, no filter. I love that kind of guy.
Yeah.
There's no filter with Dan. Dan's always been really good to me.
Good.
When I've been out at the Speedway in the month of May, and I've been with, whether it was Channel 8 or Channel 13, he's always said, "Hey, come on the radio." And he's always been really great. No, no like, "Oh, she's on a different radio station or a
Right.
different company," when he was at a different company. He didn't care. He was just like, "Hey, it's good
Right.
radio. Let's have her on." So I would be on with some of the other reporters from the TV stations, and he was always really, really great. Really, really great guy. And so now he's in our building. So I work.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, Pearl's ready to throw down with Oliver. Stand by on the set. Hang on. Let me get them out
Okay.
before they have a fight. Hold on. 'Cause they were- Oh, now. Come on. First people get off the fighting. Stay. Hold on.
There's a dog fight going down.
Oh boy.
Um,
Teenager with drama.
in our building at the radio station, in our building, it's WFMS, so it's country. It is ZPL now, JJK, 93.9X, which is that'll, active rock, kind of a hybrid of newer and classic rock. I hope I described that right. And then the sports station that Dan Dockage is now on. He just started there like 2 or 3 months ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I seen a post on
Yeah, that's-
Facebook.
Yeah. So maybe you
Yeah.
guys can get him on. Maybe you can get him on the station.
Man,
Oh,
if he
he-
I
would,
mean, podcast. Yeah.
I have so many questions.
I have so many questions
So
too.
many questions.
I'm going to be feeding you questions for Dan. He's great.
Well,
He's a busy guy because he's doing other stuff, especially basketball season's not, he's not
Yep.
in the throes of that. But yeah.
before
So,
we let you go,
yes, guys.
everybody's going to be super interested to know, what does the future of Laura Steele look like?
Wow. That's interesting because I've been doing this 30 plus years. So
Yeah.
part of me feels like I'm rounding third and headed toward home. but the other part of me thinks, I don't think I have to do something.
Yeah, because you look amazing. You sound
Oh.
amazing.
Yep.
So what's next? There's got to be something.
I don't know. I think it's, right now I'm at Channel 13 in Indianapolis. So I'm on Channel 13. I do sales-based segments. So you see me at the end of the newscast. I'm under contract with them through 2025. So that's pretty amazing at my age to be in TV still. But and then I do stuff in the month of May for them, like the red carpet at the Indy 500, which is going to be, that'll be fun. And then, I'm on in Cincinnati at 92.5, which is the same company that owns 104.5, JJK in Indianapolis. So I'm doing those three things right now, plus the charity work that I do, plus the Colts hosting where I met you guys.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm doing a lot. It's interesting too. I'm not full-time anywhere. And I don't think I'd ever go back to being full-time. I'm kind of just a freelancer, a contractor, you know what I mean? And I think that, I don't know. That you asked me. I mean, I feel like I'm just doing so much right now that maybe it would be to maybe back off a little bit and kind of enjoy my daughter in her senior year. She's got one more year of high school and get her situated in college, and then maybe go back at it a little bit harder, once she's off to college. But I can't say it's probably more the same, more talking, less shutting up. And
You
on
know
that
what?
note, it's great
You've
to
done
talk to you.
such a wonderful job. How do you not have a podcast?
Because I don't have time. I just don't have
Yeah.
time. It would be so much fun. This has really been fun. It
Maybe
really,
something in the wings.
I don't know. Maybe I'll come to the garage one day,
Maybe you can come work with us. Yeah.
You know what? You can come to the garage. We have a couple places in town we would love. We have a brewery that has really good brew.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, where is that? What brewery? Is it one that you do your
It's the Gas City Brewery.
okay?
Yes.
It's amazing. It really
Yeah.
is.
The
Great people,
atmosphere.
atmosphere.
Yeah. We did a Grant County sports trivia night there,
Okay.
and it was standing room only.
That's awesome.
We packed it with people like who love Grant County sports.
And they knew the answer.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
we'd love to have you here, man.
I know
Yeah.
we talked about doing this in person, but I thank you for the Zoom. I love seeing where you guys are, and thanks for letting me bring Pearl into the mix. And I'm really honored to be on your podcast, guys. Thank you so much.
We are
Trust
honored
me.
to have you. We
Yes.
appreciate it so much. Good luck with your busy schedule the month of
Yes.
May.
Yes.
It's gonna get hard, isn't it?
The busiest woman in radio, Laura Steele. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Laura.
gentlemen. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate
You
y'all
do
so
the
much.
same.
You too.
Bye.